Redditors, what is the worst walk of shame you've had? How did it happen? The unemployment walk of shame, when you got your stuff together and you had to walk to the elevator. Was 7 or 8 at a chess tournament and was sick. Could either forfeit and not shit myself or win. I won. Did you win? Apostrophe. I did. Apostrophe. But what did it cost you? Apostrophe. Everything. One time when I was around 13, I was at a Bible study at a relative's house and I was super gassy. I felt a big gut buster coming on and I decided the polite thing to do would be to excuse myself and go to the restroom and blow that foghorn. Well, I stood up and made it about 3 steps before I let out a quick pop and then proceeded to chainsaw fart my way across this quiet room with about 12 to 15 people reading the Bible. I stayed in the bathroom mortified until my aunt came and got me. After a wild night partying at my friend's dorm, I woke up at her place to the beanbag, carpet, and my clothing covered in vomit. I had to change clothes, gather everything in a trash bag, and carry it back to my dorm, which was a 15-minute walk away. Hungover. And did I mention that my friends stayed with me the entire time, laughing at me and pointing? Man, those were the days. Many years ago, I hooked up with a friend who lived downtown. I had parked my car on the street before going to the bar the night before. We had gotten pretty intoxicated that night, hence the hookup. We slept fairly late the next morning, both of us pretty hungover. I had entirely forgotten that there was an event that morning where they blocked off the streets, despite there being signs posted everywhere. So mid-morning I dodged my way through crowded streets to get back to where I parked my car, only to find it fenced in by temporary fences to block off the street for the kids' bike race that was about to start. My car was literally the only one left on the block. I asked a police officer when I could get it out and was told I'd have to wait until after the race. So there I sat on a bench on the sidewalk, visibly hungover, miserable, and surely ashamed, while a bunch of kids rode their bikes around downtown with their parents shooting me odd looks. Woke up on my prom date's parents' basement pool table, still wearing the top half of my tux, nothing below the waist. My date was asleep on the basement couch, jolted upright and bashed my head on the light fixture hanging above the pool table, cutting my forehead open. Could not find my underwear or socks. Walked home in snow and cold with a bleeding wound. Date's mom called my parents' house later that day, only to leave a message on the answering machine saying that she'd found my socks and underwear and that she'd send them to school with my date. Nothing beats waking up in the house of a twintism thing guy who supposedly had his own place, but then him expecting you to join him at the breakfast table with his stern-looking parents. A friend of mine recently hooked up from a club. Issue is he is in his 40s. She was barely 21. They went back to her place, which just happened to be her parents' house. The best part, walking out the next day, and a conversation ensues that he is older than her parents by a few years. I temporarily lived in a hotel in a smallish town, 7,000, for construction work for about 6 months. It was Halloween on a weeknight and lots of the construction folks went out partying. A woman friend and I made impromptu togas out of my bedsheets before heading out on the town. I crashed at her hotel that night, overslept a little, and walked back to my hotel along the commuter highway at 8 AM and only a toga. Went on a first date with a girl from an online dating app. Things went well, making out in a small pub. I accidentally set fire to my shirt on a candle. Wasted. We didn't care. Ended up staying at hers. Had to walk to work through central London the next morning in a half-burnt shirt until I could find a clothing shop and buy a t-shirt. My husband and I have been married for 23 years and have 4 sons in their late teens. For as long as we've been married, my husband goes and gets me a glass of ice water after sex. It wasn't a problem before, but now the boys stay up later than we do. He tries to avoid them when he goes for the water because he feels like they know. Our house is small. There's no avoiding them. He calls his water run the walk of shame. I don't know if that counts, but it makes me laugh. Maybe not the walk of shame you are asking about, But a few years ago I accidentally shat myself at the very crowded I Amsterdam sign. I had a very sudden bout gastro. With almost no warning, I had to do the walk of shame through the crowded streets of Amsterdam in a shit-soaked pair of chambray short shorts. I tried to shoot a piece of rubbish into the bin and missed, so the teacher stopped the entire class and made me go put it in. Not many worse feelings than waking up in someone else's hostel room, sleeping 10, stark naked on a bottom bunk with no covers over you, then trying to find your underwear amongst about 5 people's piles of clothes. One of my best friends and I went to a club without the knowledge that a well-known actor from a famous Australian TV show was making an appearance. We didn't understand all the commotion in the club until we saw a poster advertising his appearance. We never heard of the bloke beforehand because both of us don't watch the show. Anyway, he came up to us and sparked a conversation, and I whisper to my friend, "If you don't go home with him, I will be very disappointed in you." She accepts his offer to go back to his hotel, but we don't know this bloke. He could be dangerous. I wanted my friend to enjoy her night, so I went over too, just in case anything happened. So while my friend is having the time of her life in the bedroom, I passed out on the lounge. I'll admit I wasn't the best bodyguard. Hungover if I wake up in the early hours of the morning and they're both still in the room. I call my other good friend and ask her to pick us up from So hotel in the city. My makeup is a mess. My hair is knotty and looks like sex hair. I'm still in my town outfit, which is tight AF, and I slip on the complimentary hotel slippers. They're better for my exit than my bulky heels. Right? So I did absolutely nothing but sleep, and I walked through that whole hotel and out on the street. I could feel eyes on me with the obvious thoughts that I had a one night stand. If only they knew I was just trying to be a good friend. Was at a university residence partying. Went back to a girl's room. Ended up vomiting. Went to the laundry room at the end of the hall and threw my vomit soaked wool sweater in the washer then dryer. Passed out sitting on the dryer and fell sideways, banging my head on the shelf the side. Woke up with blood on my face and pants. A shrunked, vomit stained sweater. Was unsure how to exit the building and walked back to my parents' house. Took an hour through a busy enough area. Thank God they just put me to bed without asking questions. Used to work at a leisure center where we hosted kids parties with a bouncy castle. We weren't licensed to have it outside, so we used to have it in one of the function rooms, and whilst setting it up we were asked to make sure no adults go on it because the ceiling was too low and they'd hit their heads. Anyway, one time my grandma hosted her birthday party there and all the kids are on the bouncy castle. I'd already told my aunts and uncles that they aren't allowed on. Then in a fit of what I can only assume is temporary insanity, the inner child in me takes over and I launch myself onto the bouncy castle, and in one bounce I fly up and crack my head open on the ceiling. I'm wearing a white shirt and blood is flowing from my open head wound onto it. All the kids are screaming and crying. My workmates have to come in and mop up all the blood whilst I'm paraded past them on my way to R&D. So yeah, no adults on the bouncy castle, guys. I was dating this girl early freshman year of high school, and we were at her place when her parents were supposed to be out of town. She had this garage with a room above it that's about 50 feet from where I park my car, all gravel in between. So her dad comes home without us noticing and figures out what's up. Unbeknownst to me, he takes my flip-flops. Later when I'm leaving, feeling pretty good about myself no less, I can't find my shoes. Think oh weird. Proceed to start the very painful walk to my car. Then bam, floodlights from the main house. Think like a mini version of stadium lights. Blind me and I hear, "Yeah, keep walking you little shit. I see you." The mother ducker had stolen my shoes and turned on his motion activated floodlights he uses to scare away deer. Also he could taunt me and teach me the definition of a walk of shame. Honestly a great guy, though we had dinner with her parents a month later. Took me that long to be able to face him and we laughed about it. But Jesus, first and last time I've done barefoot on gravel. In college, I went home with a guy I had a crush on. But on the way, slipped on a step and cut the shit out of my knee. I didn't notice until we got to his place that I was bleeding a lot. Drunken me didn't let that stop me from getting some. The next morning, I didn't want to wear my heels with my injured knee, so I borrowed the guy's slip-on shoes, which made me look like I was wearing clown shoes. On my long walk across campus, there's a church by my apartment, and it happened to be Easter services, and one of my professors saw me and stopped to chat. Mortifying. Got extremely intoxicated at my college basketball game and hit up my ex. Except I was dressed in a ronishi. Woke up in his room. Think I'll catch the campus bus and just avoid eye contact with everyone. I go to look out the window and realize we were in the middle of a blizzard. So I had to walk in the freezing snow a half mile through campus. Horrible experience. In bed. Had to pee. Went to toilet. Peed. This feels weird. Why are my pants wet? Wake up. Only dreamed of going to toilet. Peed my bed. Had to walk to the closet and change. My worst pee dream was after watching Revenge of the Sith as a kid. I dreamt about the classic I have the high ground Anakin scene, except the lava suddenly felt very warm and realistic and wake up. This everywhere. Was on a business trip to do some late hours network changes at another location, then return back by train. Had to squat while connecting some cables in the rack. Rip. Yep. So much for the back seam of my pants, which meant that I had to do the whole return trip with my boxers peeking through the rip. Well, mine was a stride of pride that quickly turned into a walk of shame. Strutting my way home after spending the night with a girl that had been trying to woo for a while. I was feeling good. It was a nice day. Sun was shining and it was only a mile walk, so I was a happy man. With a couple of 100 meters to go, that's when things started to go wrong. The late night takeaway that had loved only hours previously reared its ugly head. With my apartment in sight and my belly making noises reminiscent of Jabba the Hutt feeding, I took off at a run, or a weird hybrid run/waddle to get home. Just as in reaching the entrance to the apartment complex, the floodgates opened, and the last 50 meters were some of the most shameful of my life as I climbed the stairs and got into the shower fully clothed and full of regret for that late night burger. Not me, but at my college, 2 dorms were connected by the dining hall. The only way from one to the other was via the dining hall, or you could walk way around outside. Occasionally the disheveled, must-hair walking corpse of a freshman girl would half-trot through breakfast to get back to her room. On one occasion, applause broke out throughout the hall. Not mine, but my mom's. My mom went to a festival with a dress code. Not completely sure what it was, but she was wearing a kind of skimpy Russian army uniform with a short skirt. My mom was 48 at the time, but she looks like she might be in her 30s. So she didn't look like an older lady wanting to look hot. She brought a fur jacket to go to and from the festival. At the festival she met a guy, went home with him, woke up and went out and called her friend to pick her up. So my mom's standing outside in a skimpy dress with a fur coat by the supermarket in the center of Amsterdam waiting for her friend. He pulls up in his expensive car. He's quite rich, and my mom gets in. People are staring. Mom looked like a Russian prostitute getting picked up by her pimp. This happened to a good friend of mine. We go to a party at another college. He gets completely hammered and goes back to some girl's dorm room. They hook up. Afterwards, he has to piss. He goes out into the hall, but can't find the bathroom. Ends up pissing in the stairwell. Back into the hallway. But now he can't remember the girl's room number. Has not even sure has on the right floor. It's about 3 AM. Has in an all-female dorm. And has completely naked. He wanders around the building for at least half an hour until he finally comes across the laundry room. All he manages to find is a short denim skirt thing that is too big for him and a button-up short-sleeved shirt that's way too small. It's so small that he can't button it up. It's October in Pennsylvania, so it's cold. Not exactly you're going to die cold, but it was probably in the 40s or something. He proceeds to walk 2 miles back to the house we were staying at, barefoot, in a skirt, and wearing a shirt that looked more like an open vest. He said that he really didn't see that many people on the walk back, but 2 or 3 cars beeped at him. Went to the home of a girl from work for a hookup. Indian girl whose strict parents were gone for the day. We get down to business for a while. Then she happens to glance out the window and says, "How come there's a car in the driveway?" Apostrophe. Just as she's saying that, her mom starts to open the door and the girl shoves me out her bedroom window. Her mom sees me fly out the window and screams. Outside, her dad comes after me while I'm trying to put my clothes back on. Tells me to come into the house and fat hair's not going to hurt me. Thief got my car keys and shoes, so I choose to believe him. He sits me down to have a discussion about the immorality of sex. Then his daughter comes out of her room still topless and starts trying to defend me. Dad starts screaming. Mom starts screaming. Girl starts screaming. I decide my work here is done and skulk out of the house. It was a short walk of shame. Just into and then out of the house. But holy shit, did I feel ashamed. I was dating a girl, 19, living with folks when we started and then got her own place when they moved. She was staying with a gal who had a no overpass guest rule. So on days when I would stay over when I left, we would crouch behind the door and wait for her roommate to go into her room or the bathroom so I could sneak out. I never got caught, but man, at one point I'm sitting there like I'm a grown ass man. I shouldn't be hiding like a schoolboy. It didn't last. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.